Hello, welcome again to Mali Investment Talks with your investment advisor, Joseph Areu, sharing with you some tips, some advice on investments, on passive investments. And in this video, I want to continue with the theme of portfolio management. In particular, I want to talk about portfolio rebalancing. That is something that I touched on in an earlier video. So what is portfolio rebalancing? If you remember, I said time and again, as frequently as possible, you want to make sure that your portfolio, the allocation of assets or allocation to different asset classes in your portfolio mirrors your priorities, mirrors your risk appetite. Okay, so if you are a high, if you fear risk, if you do not tolerate a lot of risk, well, then you don't allocate so much to a high risk asset class or high risk assets like equities, for example. If on the other hand, maybe you're young and you are a red devil, so to say, and you have some stomach for risk in exchange for a good return, well, then you can allocate a little more to high risk assets, again, like equities and some other assets, those of you who are able to do that. Okay, now, what is portfolio rebalancing? So I said time and again you want to make sure that if, for instance, you started, or your ideal allocation is to have 10% and no more in equities, and maybe 60% in fixed income, and let's just say 10% or let's say 30% in other assets. And then suppose over time equities or shares gained in value to the extent that now you have 30% or even 40%, and then the other asset classes are now less in terms of contribution to your portfolio, then it's time for you to rebalance. And what then you have to do? Sell off some equities, and this is not necessarily going to be something easy, because we as human beings tend to have a tendency to want to instead buy more assets when we see the prices going up. But what I'm telling you that is that if the prices are going up, and as a result of that is bringing your portfolio out of balance, you now have more of a certain asset class than you should have, then it's time for you to rebalance and sell off some of that particular asset class or asset to bring the portfolio back to where it was. So let me give you an example. About a month ago, I noticed personally that my equity portfolio was growing, and so my equity portfolio, that my shares portfolio, is in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And those of you who live there know that the market over, let's say, since the beginning of this year has basically appreciated for a variety of reasons. So I found my equities or shares portfolio, the value of my shares, going up to maybe by about 30–40% since the year began. And what did that mean for my portfolio? I was now more exposed to the shares risk than I was comfortable with. So what did I do? I sold off some of my shares. I sold off like half of my investment in one of the companies in order to bring back the proportion of shares in my portfolio to where I was comfortable with. That is what I mean by portfolio rebalancing. So thank you very much. Once again, remember to like, share, and subscribe to my videos going forward. Thank you.